You don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't have
I didn't
time to.
even, yeah, I didn't even need Jailbreak in 2016. I do know, but go on. Such an unnecessary move.
Okay, hey everyone. So we're back. So Dustin's gonna take a little break here. He reheated his lunch with the fork inside, so he's dealing with that right now. But we're here to talk about Dragon Ball Super, which is the next installment to the Dragon Ball series, which I believe ended about 18 years ago. Ended or started? I can't remember. So if that doesn't make you feel old, nothing will. Except the everyday progress of your slowly decaying body and mind, like mine. So, in a guest spot, we talk about games and media. So this is going to be, a media spot. And chances are, if you're into games, you dabbled in anime, or at least know of Dragon Ball Z, because, the height of its popularity 10 or 15 years ago was skyrocketing. So today's guest knows all of that. He knows anime, comic books, video games, and he has an arguably successful Facebook page dedicated to exactly that called Bodysnatchers, Anime, Comics, and Gaming. And this place makes Reddit look like a lost child in Walmart. I mean, every time I go on here, there's like somebody's talking about a subject and there's 50 comments of just long paragraphs of big words, and I just get intimidated and block the page. So it's Tino. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Steven. Thanks for having me, buddy. So,
So you're the founder of Body Snatchers, or just an admin? What are you?
I mean, of the Facebook group, I'm the founder. It actually comes from like a gaming clan that like me and a bunch of friends had, coming out of high school. And we grew up, so people are all over the country and stuff now, whether it be college, moving, military, all that type of stuff. But we kept our online group, our clan tag the whole time, and we always would participate and get into crazy arguments with, douchebags all over the internet. And then one day I was like, you know what, why don't we just start our own group? So it was my idea, but for me to take credit for the name itself would be false. So just in case any of them are listening and want to fight me later.
Yeah, I first ran into him when we played DC Online, and I seen how many hours you guys put into it. And man,
Yeah, we had like a disgusting group in DC Universe. We started playing like right at launch time, and man, like that game, it sucks that in 2016, like they haven't done anything major to it to like bring it back up to speed. But I mean, when it first came out, I mean, it was just a breath of fresh air. You got to see like all your favorite, comic book heroes and villains, going to war and like a classic, like almost like Final Fantasy-ish kind of style. Like just hours of fun we unloaded into that game, dude. And PvP, we destroyed everybody.
yeah, well, we're never going back to it, right?
No, that's
It's dead to
I
us,
don't.
right?
Yeah, at this point you couldn't pay me to go back, man. I mean, because like it's a legit game, but like it's still the same game it was in like 2011 or 10, and even though I love to say like graphics don't necessarily make the game, um, having major bugs and stuff like that does, and like that's one of the things where like they'll have a major glitch and it will take them months to fix it every single time they do an update. So it's just like it's too frustrating to play at this state in the game.
Right. It was a fun game, but it got repetitive, and they were charging us what, $15 a month?
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, $15 a month. I mean, I think for any online, MMO is like reasonable, but I don't know. I mean, like, once you put so many hours into it, like, it just you start to notice, like, they do updates and they do stuff because they feel pressured to make things more challenging. But what happens is, as they attempt to make things more challenging in that game, it ends up becoming severely unbalanced to where it's just like you can't even jump in and have a good time anymore.
Well, since that game is dead to us, we might find something else since No Man's Sky is coming out, and I know you're not gaming as much anymore, and you don't trust that game. A lot of trust issues with that game when I talk to you. I don't know why.
I mean, it looks legit. Like I do want to give it a chance. Everything I've heard sounds really good. I just I don't know. I mean, I haven't been sold to it. Like I feel like it's going to be just one of those temporary hype things, where people hype it up and it's going to die out within 30, 45 days. And me, I like games nowadays. Like I don't jump on everything that comes out, man. Games are expensive, so it's got to be something that I've got my eye on for a while.
Yeah. The next show, I want someone to come on and talk about No Man's Sky. I might go to Bodysnatchers for that. See if you have any experts on there that'd like to. But so yeah, for that Bodysnatchers page, I'll leave a link below whenever I post a show, so people can check it out. It's a closed group, but it's not secret, correct?
Yeah, no, secrets are lame. It's closed basically to force you to join if you want to get involved because I mean we don't do that whole have one foot out, one foot in thing. Yeah, it's like either you're gonna do it or you can't play. That's how it's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah. Secrets don't make friends, so that's a good call on your part. So when Dragon Ball Super came out last year, July, so it's already been over a year since it's been weekly coming out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It flew by.
And I just recently, I think you know this, I recently got into Dragon Ball Z because me and my wife went to see Resurrection of Frieza in the theaters, and that environment was just so cool because we were in a sold out theater with
Yeah,
hardcore fans.
that like one night premiere. Yeah, I was also at that.
Yeah, but we got it on a Fandango, and I didn't know it'd be sold out. There were people there trying to order it off the kiosk, and they were getting turned away, all pissed off.
Right? Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a big deal, despite the fact that it's been like what going on 18, 20 years or something since Dragon Ball Z first came out. It hasn't lost any of its hype. If anything, it's probably got a bigger fan base now than it did back then, just with the old school guys, like me and people even older that were into it, and then the new generation. Probably don't know as much as we do, but I mean, they still flock to it. It's hard to avoid.
Yeah, I went. I went to the Bodysnatchers page and I asked. I don't know if you remember this. Where should I start? Should I start at Dragon Ball, or should I go right to Dragon Ball Z? Because Dragon Ball is 153 episodes, and people were like, "It's not that important. Just go to right to Dragon Ball Z."
It's one of those things where like you can. I feel like if you watch Dragon Ball, you'll appreciate the series as a whole a lot more. Just because when Toriyama had written Dragon Ball. I mean, they had absolutely no idea what direction they were going to go into, when they finally came up with Dragon Ball Z. So, I mean, it's really cool to see something that was so goofy and playful turn into something that became, so serious with, characters with planet-busting abilities, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, and then I watched all 291 episodes of Dragon Ball Z, and there was nothing. I wanted more, so even though people told me not to, I watched Dragon Ball GT, which I'm indifferent about.
With GT. GT. That's I don't know. I mean, like GT. Thank God it's not canon anymore. Let me start off saying that. But I mean, it's still worth watching or at least skimming through. I mean, because there's some cool elements. But I mean, the problem with GT is like they went in a direction that was going to be like remember how like the '90s were like just kind of weird, like late '90s. I mean, it's hard to describe, but like where it was like they were almost kind of going back to the '80s, and everything had to be like louder and more hardcore. And that
retro was cool.
Yeah, and I believe it was Toriyama's son who took over, to do Dragon Ball GT, and like you can tell like he pushed, that whole idea on the show really, really aggressively, and I mean it made it shitty. I mean. Cool elements. I mean, for people who aren't super familiar with it, I mean, that was the series where they had, towards the end, they had Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which was just like an awesome transformation. Probably my favorite to this day.
I liked it. I didn't like how he was a kid though. That didn't.
No, dude. I mean, well, what it was, you said you didn't watch Dragon Ball, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Emperor Pilaf was a main reoccurring character in Dragon Ball, like this evil general type of guy, just to be short with it. And he ended up using the Dragon Balls and made a wish to turn Goku, who now is like infinitely powerful after Dragon Ball Z, into a child in order to be able to defeat him. Was his mindset, I guess.
Right, the black Dragon Balls, right? Or was that something else?
Well, no, this is. Man, it's a little bit complicated, but I believe, if I remember correctly, that happened before the Dragon Balls, were cracked and evil. That's kind of getting into a different segment of the show. But yeah, he used the Dragon Balls to make that wish to make Goku a child, and then yeah, I mean the idea was he was going to defeat him, and obviously that is not how it went down. But what really pissed me off about that show is, I can accept the fact that okay, he's going to be a child. his granddaughter Pan and Vegeta's son Trunks, travel the universe, go get the Dragon Balls and all that. And, it was an interesting little story. But whenever he, towards the end of the series, once he attained that Super Saiyan 4 Goku transformation, he, when he would turn into Super Saiyan 1, 2, or 3, he remained a child. And then at 4, for some fucking unknown reason, he turned into a grown man. Like somehow that like nullified like the wish and made him a man instead of a child. And then when he would revert back to his base form, he would turn back into a kid. And that was just really lame to me and kind of, ruined the show for me.
Did they explain why that was?
No, oh, God, no. I mean, we're talking about a show where like when they went to go summon Shenron in the beginning of the series, and the Dragon Ball was cracked, from all the crazy wishes, the evil in the world or universe. I forget the exact, plot. It was poor. Instead of Shenron coming up, an evil dragon came. And when he came out, like, he was, think about it. It's a giant dragon. And even though it's a cartoon and it's fantasy and all that, like, it was kind of, like, shitty because they showed a giant dragon and he's smoking, like, a giant cigar. And it was just, like, really not the style we were used to seeing, after Dragon Ball Z ended on such a serious note.
God, that show was just it was just hard for me to watch, and I'm a casual fan. I don't worry about the bits and pieces. I just sit there and watch, and that GT was just rough.
I mean, yeah, the only thing probably worse than that was the Bio Broly movie, which was the second movie with Broly. That one was pretty bad. Most of the Dragon Ball Z movies are pretty bad because they all have the exact same basic plot where, they're getting stomped out by said villains. And Goku can't save them on his own, but if he collectively, uses some sort of spirit power from the other guys, like not even just their ki, like some kind of weird, thing would happen, where he would attain some crazy ability and use like a spirit bomb or a dragon punch or something like that, beat the bad guy, and that's the end. That's like almost every single movie. So, that got old real quick, as you can imagine.
So, Dragon Ball, when Dragon Ball Super came out, and the way they were writing it, it went off the two first movies, which I didn't like. How did you feel about that? Because I felt like they were recycled. It was more in depth. I'll give them that, but it was just recycled.
Well, it's like you said. It was more in depth, and that's what I enjoyed about it. Because like for instance, in the movies, they have take a scene, where like they're on the boat. And Beerus comes on the boat. This is from the first movie, I believe, for Dragon Ball Super, Battle of the Gods or whatever. And like the scenes are kind of rushed because it's a movie, and then in Super, they're much, much, much more in depth. They show a whole lot of extra stuff going on that we didn't see. My issue with that though is it took them almost 30 episodes, which is a really long time.
That's a really long time.
Yeah, to get through. And it was just, really, really boring to me. Like, if you hadn't watched the movies right around that time, I can't see anybody being able to just pick up and go with the way that series started. So, to me, that was just lazy. I don't know if they didn't know what direction they wanted to take. It was pretty shitty, though. I'm not going to lie.
Now, if anyone's wondering why they should watch this show, you're at the gym or driving to work or trying to drown out the sound of gunshots right now outside your home listening to us, I would say if you wanted to check it out and you don't want to watch 291 episodes, just check out Battle of the Gods, the movie, and it's going to let you know right there if you like it or not. Really, you don't need a build-up to enjoy that movie. Resurrection of Frieza you do, because there's a big backstory, but Battle of the Gods, I think you can just pick up and go.
So let's like rewind back a little bit. With Resurrection F, it was really lazy the way that instead of coming up with a whole new villain, they brought Frieza back. I feel like they brought Frieza back because it had been such a long time. They wanted to bring in a familiar villain to again, hit that, little nostalgia bump on the head and, get people excited. So I guess I get that, for marketing purposes, I guess it made sense. However, just the writing in it was lazy, So like here you have, Goku and Vegeta who became Super Saiyans, and just Super Saiyan 1 was more than enough to handle the original Frieza. Um, Goku took care of him. Fast forward a little bit, King Cold and Frieza come to Earth. Trunks cuts him up with a sword. It's been about a year's time since Namek blew up. So Trunks cuts up Frieza. Goku arrives at Earth, and we saw how fast Trunks just destroyed Frieza and King Cold, and then he wants to spar with Goku. And Goku handles Trunks, his whole sword. Trunks goes all out. Goku uses just his finger against the sword. So we can see in a year's time, Goku wearing the little Yadra outfit or whatever, like just totally, overpowers Trunks. So, I mean, that's the last time, that Frieza was even remotely relevant, but still really wasn't. So that's really the end of that. Frieza only made like one or two very minor appearances, was in the Home for Infinite Losers, for basically the rest of the entire Dragon Ball Z series. And when it comes back to, Resurrection F, and they're basically like, okay, Frieza makes statements like, in my entire life, I was just gifted. I was this strong. I never trained before. So now I'm just going to, do a little bit of training, and I'm going to somehow catch up to everything we saw the Z Fighters go through. We saw them go through Super Saiyan 1.
Yeah, what
Super
was
Saiyan,
it? What was it in like 3 months or 4 months?
I think it was like 3 months, and that was it. So and he had a quote unquote new transformation, which is just bullshit to me. Especially if we're counting his brother Cooler, who had a whole transformation that was a very massive transformation where his body looked like armor. He was just this huge monster. He was awesome.
Right.
And Frieza gets a new transformation that's way stronger, but skips Cooler's transformation, which I wish they would have explained that. And then just changes colors. It was so lazy. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to allow this to happen. But then the only reason they were able to beat Frieza was because they said that Frieza hadn't had enough time to adapt to the new body. Basically meaning that, in 3 months' time or whatever the time limit was, that Frieza was able to get to godlike levels, which, I mean, technically speaking, would make Frieza potentially stronger than Beerus, which, like, what?
Right, if he would have worked out for 5 months,
Right.
But, yeah, they made the argument that he became powerful so quick that his body didn't have time to catch up, correct?
Basically, yeah. I think it's that's correct. So, yeah, I mean, whatever, dude. I don't know. It's just, to me, it was just really bullshit, lazy writing. To give him such a powerful upper hand, it just didn't make any sense to me. I mean, if I was writing, I probably would have been like, okay, so we've got the Dragon Balls. Our first wish is going to be to, bring Frieza back from the dead. Our second wish is going to be to give Frieza godlike power. Boom. No plot holes for the most part. Makes perfect sense, and now they have like a rival. But that was too easy, I guess. I guess they needed to do some extra bullshit where everybody was like, really? He trained? Okay.
I don't mind that he trained, and to go back a little bit, Cooler is Frieza's brother, but that was in one of the 30 Dragon Ball movies.
Right, but that was, I mean, I don't know. To me, that was the Cooler movie was good, but
oh yeah, it was good.
My own take, because it's one of those movies where like Cooler had the upper hand. You know what I mean? You felt Goku's struggle, and movies like that are fun. Nobody likes one where the good guy goes in and just mops the floor with the bad guy. The bad guy has one trick up his sleeve, so the good guy kind of fumbles. It looks like he's gonna lose, but he gets back on his toes and wins. Because that's basically everything that happens at Super right now, and it's just really frustrating to watch them be so omnipotent. Like I don't know. That's just me, man.
Yeah, it's me. It's just that movie. It didn't suck, but like you said, when he trained for 3 months, you're like, all right, now he's just as powerful. I'm like, that's it. And I look at my watch. I'm like, how long is this movie? I expected so much more because, like you said, when you see Frieza, you get you used to watch Frieza back in the day. You want to see him again be a badass, and it was just silly nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, it was depressing, to see such lazy writing. So you just kind of go with it, And then they have, Gohan, who they watered down to nothing, and he
was just a scrub.
Man, I mean, and what really sucks is like a little known fact is, in Dragon Ball Z, if you remember in the beginning, like when Raditz came, and then they went to Planet Namek, and you just always saw Gohan had this like hidden power. They were gearing up and writing Gohan to basically take over from Goku. Goku eventually was supposed to die, remain dead, and Gohan was supposed to unlock his potential and become this crazy awesome warrior. Is how the story was supposed to go, and fans like flipped the fuck out and were like, nah, man, we're not with it. We want Goku, blah blah blah. So they ended up changing all the writing towards the end of the series to kind of pull that back, after the Cell Saga and Buu Saga, and kind of give the limelight back to Goku, which, Toriyama did not want to write at all. I kind of wish they would have just stuck with Gohan being it, because, now that they're in Super, you can tell, like, he doesn't give a fuck anymore, based, on everything they did with Dragon Ball Z. It's like night and day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like, they made him irrelevant. They made Super Saiyan transformations irrelevant. Every other Z fighter is more or less irrelevant. They're there for more comedic or sympathetic purposes or filler episodes now. It's just like, now it's basically turned into the Goku and Vegeta show, and what can they do, and now it's featuring Trunks. So we'll see what they do with that.
So that being said, I know we're here to get your final on Super, but what would you have? What was your thoughts on Dragon Ball Z? You got anything bad or good to say about that?
I mean, Dragon Ball Z was it was cool because it was like the first of its kind. I mean, it came out in an era where you could write something, simple, like it just, there wasn't a lot of depth to Dragon Ball Z, but we liked it because it didn't have depth, at that time. You could have a character who, they would introduce Piccolo and Goku fighting in a tournament, and, Goku and Piccolo, they look at each other, they say, all right, we've been sparring, warming up, let's get serious. Goku takes off his armbands, and his boots, and they end up being weighted. They make cracks in the ground. Piccolo takes off his cape and his hat, and they smash the ground. And that's that whole thing. That's like, oh my God, they're way faster than we thought. They fight, and that's it. It's awesome. And then even when they power up, the obnoxious screaming, and the huge, bulky muscles, and just overall destruction, mountains blowing up, like that's all we needed. But in 2016. We see that Toriyama has made some changes. So let's first talk about Goku's transformation.
Okay.
Him and Vegeta. When Goku turns into the Red Super Saiyan God for the first time, the original artists were trying to draw him based on the old '90s style. So they wanted him to be big, buff, like crazy long hair, same stuff that we always get out of Dragon Ball Z. And Toriyama was like, nope, that's trash. I want him to go back to base form and have a very, thin body with, like larger, more.
Yeah, he looked very young.
Distinct eyes. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, if you want my opinion on it, I really prefer that red look over like the big bulky thing. And in a lot of ways, it reminded me of, like. Let's take something a little more recent and popular, like Bleach or something like that. Like you'll see like Kurosaki Ichigo or something, where there, or Naruto or something, where it's like just thinner characters, and it just I don't know, it just like flows better. They focus more on like speed and what's actually happening in the battle versus I'm gonna make my muscles really really big and punch this mountain. So I mean, I thought that was kind of cool. But the biggest distinction between shows like that and shows like Dragon Ball Z Super is, I mean, you can argue with me if you want to, but there's no real depth to the show. You know what I mean? Like, and let's take Naruto. Like they overdo it with fillers for sure, but they get to a point to where you become, really emotionally involved with the show. You know what I mean? Like some days, like you'll get to a certain segment of the show where like something will hit you, where like you're just emotionally like, damn, like you're blown back. Like a chick watching Titanic in the '90s for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you're talking about.
And you are absolutely 110% not going to get that out of Super. You know what I mean? There's no real writing going on. Like they're writing, but I mean, a fifth grader could write the stories and plots that they're writing. So I mean, I'm hoping that there's something much bigger in store. Because even with the tournament, we have Wiz and Beerus, who's training Goku and Vegeta, and this is prior to the tournament. And then Badamo, who's what is he? He's Beerus's brother from Universe 6. He comes over and he's got a trainer like Beerus does, who ends up being Wiz's sister, and I think her name is Vados. And Yeah, so I mean that happens. They come out of nowhere. They, end up issuing their challenge. I don't feel like getting into details because I don't want to, ruin that plot if you want to call it that.
Right, right.
But
It's a good chunk of television. I'll tell you that.
man, so I mean, okay, so now we've got basically Team Seven, which is everybody that we know, and then Team Universe Six, which is these two characters I introduced. So they set up their teams. Our team has like Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Majin Buu, and then I think Monica or Monka. I forget his name. I think it's Monica though. Like this little orange dude, which or was like pink, and they say he's got like big nipples, which is supposed to be funny. I guess it was like chuckle worthy. And then on the other team, you've got Frost, who's like a Frieza race character. Otto Magetta or something, which is like this big stupid robot guy.
The magma robot.
That dude was lame. And then you got Kaba. Sorry, man, I'm trying to remember their names, so I'm thinking back. But that dude was like, he's a Saiyan from that universe, which I thought was interesting. And then you got Hit, who's like a bounty hunter, assassin type of character. So I mean, and all the characters are kind of like boring. Like Frost, comes in and we see that he's a character like Frieza, but he's like the emperor of that universe, but he's supposed to be like this really genuine good guy. And that's not the case. He as it goes along, he ends up being evil, whatever. And it hits Goku with like that poison dart and cheats in the tournament. Gets kicked out and loses because of that. And I think he goes to steal like one of the prizes for the tournament after losing, and Hit, somebody on his own team, catches him and beats his ass for like trying to break the rules and steal something after losing because he didn't want to disgrace the team and steal the prize that Hit was after, etc., etc. The robot guy was lame. The Saiyan guy, I feel like they could have did a lot more with. I hope they bring him back because his planet wasn't destroyed like how Planet Vegeta was in our universe.
Right.
And I think Goku or Vegeta asks him, they say, where's your tail? Did you cut it off like how we cut our tails off? And he's like, no, because Planet Vegeta wasn't destroyed, or I don't think they call it Vegeta in that universe. It was like Planet Sedale or Sedalia, something like that. He's like, we lost our tails due to the evolutionary process, which I thought was interesting because, like, the Saiyan's main source of power was supposed to be their tail. So that, like, totally debunked everything that you got in Dragon Ball GT, which is no longer canon.
It was probably why he was weak as fuck, too.
Well, that's the thing, though, is you can call him weak, but, I mean, in the fight, like, as he was fighting, he was learning from Vegeta. Like, he, was a base form Saiyan who was able to keep up with Vegeta's base form, which made no sense. That was shitty writing. For reasons you've got to watch the show to understand why that made no sense. And Vegeta ends up pushing him and teaches him how to turn into a Super Saiyan in the middle of battle. And then they're able to fight on par again for a little bit. And then Vegeta's like, okay, haha, I'm kidding. Look at this, I'm Super Saiyan God now. And basically checks him, and Vegeta wins that fight. But I guess I was just mad because, like, with Planet Vegeta, I always thought it would have been so cool if they could have went back so we could see other Saiyans, more Saiyans, Nappa, Raditz, those kind of characters come to light with where they're at now. And we have that opportunity with a whole nother universe, but they're like, nah, fuck it. This kid's Super Saiyan. He's probably going to be real strong someday. Next scene. The only dude that presented any type of real challenge was Hit. Like, that dude was fake as hell. Like, he ended up being, what they say, like, he was secretly like 1,000 years old or older than that. And like totally just was raping Goku like in every direction possible. Like, it didn't make any sense. But yeah, Goku would have definitely lost that. Or did he technically lose? I can't even remember. I think he did give up or something.
He pretty much tapped out, and then it was Hip and Monocle, and then I won't say what happens, but yeah, we'll let them watch it. So
to see how the tournament plays out or whatever. So yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so I mean, the tournament and everything was cool, but going back to what we were originally saying, the writing is, I mean, really that's just the worst part of the show, man. Like I said, I mean, it has its moments for sure, which is why I tune in, and fun surprises, but it's just it doesn't have that same weight that you had to it. And I think the biggest problem is how powerful the characters are. If you want my honest opinion on it, because in Dragon Ball Z, the entire way through, we saw, the characters had to overcome something. You had
progression.
Yeah, like Raditz came and he was like, oh shit, there's other Saiyans out there? What's a Saiyan? He didn't even know what that was initially. And it took him and Piccolo and Piccolo to shoot a special beam cannon through both of them in order to win. So Goku had to die to to beat the first villain. And then, fast forward, he comes back or whatever, and Raditz informs him there's two more Saiyans. So okay, drum roll, we introduce Nappa, we introduce Vegeta, and they're exponentially stronger than Raditz was. So now here they are again, and even Goku, after all his training with King Kai in Outworld, has to muster up all the strength. He makes quick work of Nappa, but then him and Vegeta meet for the first time. He only won that fight due to Yajirobe helping and cutting off Vegeta's tail, if memory serves correctly. And then they go to Namek, where all the shit's going down with Frieza. And he struggles, and then by stroke of a miracle, he turns Super Saiyan. But they built up for it,
right?
And made it exciting. Vegeta talked about the Saiyan of Legend that comes around every 1,000 years or something, and Vegeta claimed multiple times throughout that segment to saga rather, to be a Super Saiyan every time he attains new powers, but they were all false claims. And then Goku finally gets it, and then he wins, and so on. And then Cell comes, and they got to go to the I should say androids and Cell come, and their new powers and shit, and they got to go to the hyperbolic time chamber to get stronger. And it's even then it's still not cut and dry. And imagine Buu, and it's just the whole thing. It was just back and forth, and every time I hit a new level, somebody just came and shit on that. And with Super, it's like
everyone's a god. Must be nice.
Yeah, and it's it's really boring to me. And it's okay, so everybody's a god. You have 12 universes, and it's just you can't really do anything with it. Maybe using the term God isn't the direction that they should have went in, or maybe there should. They already have the spirit world, but because we already know about the Kais and the Home for Infinite Losers and all that, those guys are only so strong. But while we're talking on it, speaking of Kais, we can get into Goku Black if you want to.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I do you read the manga at all before?
Yeah, I do actually.
All right, so you know more about Black than everyone else does listening to this, probably, right?
More than likely, yes. This was fun because they took Future Trunks, which is a lot of people's favorite characters, and just kind of zoomed in on that, and they brought in Mai, who's a character from Dragonball and all that other stuff. I won't get into detail with Mai. Just watch the series to figure out who she is, but that's his lover or whatever in the future. And you've got Goku Black, who it's just a really confusing character to have anyways, because you got to remember, in Trunks' timeline, Goku died from the heart. Well, the heart virus. Yeah, because remember, that's the whole reason Trunks came back in the series, was to give Goku that medication to help Goku get through that whole virus situation, so that he could train and blah blah blah, go on to defeat the androids. So yeah, Goku should have been dead, long before Trunks got his little power boost in our present time and went back. So just that in itself was kind of confusing. So we're really interested to see where it ends up going. But they show Black. Black comes out. He's leveling cities. Everybody's running from Black in the same way that they did the androids, but even more so because Black is. He's even worse than the androids, where the androids are just having chaotic fun. Black is killing with with intent. He wants to wipe out the human race. He wants to squash everybody that's there. And Trunks, fast forward a little bit, gets in his time machine, comes back to our time right before near death. And Black has something called the time ring, where he's able to temporarily follow Trunks back into the timeline, but it's that's not a permanent thing. But he's there just long enough to spar with Goku for a few minutes, and just so many unanswered questions, when they fight or whatever. But Black was able to fight on par with Super Saiyan 1 or 2. I think it was Super Saiyan 1, Goku's base form. Might have been 2, but Black was base form Goku and fighting Super Saiyan, so that was kind of weird to me. And he made comments like, so this is what this body is capable of, and so on. So, it lets you know that there's some kind of being that was able to take over Goku's body. But, we really don't know why or how, with the exception of the Patara earrings. He's wearing one of them, as we all know from Dragon Ball. That's from Fusion, where we got Vegito, that, from the Kais. So that's why, we know that he's some sort of a Kai, but we're not really sure how a Kai fused with, a body that should have been dead. It's very, very confusing.
All right, so before we sign off, favorite Dragon Ball moment, go.
My personal favorite Dragon Ball moment was when Goku transforms into Super Saiyan 3 for the first time in front of Fat Majin Buu, and goes through all the transformations accordingly to buy time. So everybody remembers where he's like floating over the city, the clouds are all coming in, and he's like, this is a Super Saiyan, this is a Super Saiyan 2, and then he's like, and this is, to go beyond, and because it's like a new transformation, the whole earth starts shaking, whole cities start to flex, windows are busting, like, and he generates so much energy where everybody around the planet and like universe can feel him. Like that's got to be probably the coolest scene. So yeah, not a hard one. It's an easy one.
Yeah, that was a pretty easy one. Mine is the world tournament where Vegeta's under control and he's trying to fight Goku under any circumstances, even though he's getting orders to do something else.
Or Vegeta uses his cheat boost. Although you can't hate him for it because how many movies has Goku used somebody else's powers? So I mean, as much as I'm more a Goku fan versus Vegeta, Vegeta's a better written character, but I do like Goku more. Fanboy status. I'm sorry. I mean, but you can't you can't knock Vegeta for that because Goku gets a handout every time somebody is willing to extend it. So,
And that feel you were talking about wherever Bobbity gave him an order, and he's drilling into him, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to be distracted from this any longer." And he
right, dude. He's like, "I'm not your
flips
bitch."
out and fights him. He's like, "I got shit to do. I don't care about the guy."
Right. Which that would have been such a classic scene if they didn't go back and dub Whitney Houston's voice over it. God, I hate that clip. For those of you who've seen
the
it,
YouTube clip.
Oh god, it's like the worst clip ever. Like, and every 2 days somebody posts it like as if it's something new and relevant. And I just like, man, if you do that shit in Bodysnatchers, you're banned. You don't get to post that. We don't have time for that shit.
All right, well, I guess that wraps it up. You got a Twitter you want to tell people?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me at SuperTino1467. So I do my tweets occasionally, but I mean, if you really want to get involved with the group, I would just type in, Bodysnatchers Gaming or Anime and Comics on Facebook. Really active group, not for the faint of heart. And if you're the kind of person that likes to report things, we will find you and we will kick you. We don't like that. We like it to be raw and, vocal. We don't want to candy coat stuff. If you got an opinion, we want to hear about it. You don't have to candy coat everything. So.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. This went a little longer than I expected, but I loved every second of it. Anyone that listens to it is gonna. I think they'll definitely look into it now.
So yeah, man. I mean, anytime, dude. You can pick my brain about anything, and we can just get down and make stuff happen. But if you want to talk about nerdy stuff, I got you all day.